Hi, in this video I'll help you get to know your car a little better. At the end of this video I've put together a straightforward infographic that summarizes all the key points. Like, subscribe and comment below. It really helps.
Hey everyone! We have all been there, right? You're driving along and then, bam, that dreaded little orange engine light pops up on your dash. It's frustrating enough on its own, but when you plug in a scanner and it spits out a whole laundry list of confusing codes, it feels like your car is speaking a totally different language. But what if I told you all those seemingly random codes are actually just telling one single connected story?
So take a look at this. This is our puzzle for today. We've got 6 different codes staring back at us. You've got P0171 and P0174, which, both mean the engine's running way too lean. Then there's P0308, a misfire, specifically in cylinder number 8. And to top it all off, we have 3 completely different sensor prototypes. I mean, on the surface, these look like they have nothing to do with each other. It's a real diagnostic mess. So the question is, how on earth could all of this be connected?
Well, here's the really cool part. Hidden somewhere in that list of confusing clues is one master code. It's that single piece of data that acts like a key, the one that's going to unlock the entire mystery and explain every single other fault we're seeing. And here it is, the master clue. The key to this whole thing is P0190. Its official name is Fuel Rail Pressure Circuit Malfunction. Now, this isn't just another random code on the list. This is the central piece of evidence. This is the one that's going to tie everything else together for us. So we really need to focus on what this one is telling us.
The source material just puts it perfectly. Bingo. That's it. This code is the final, definitive piece of evidence we need. It just erases all the guesswork and points us directly at the real culprit. It's that aha moment that turns this confusing jumble of symptoms into one crystal clear diagnosis.
All right, so now that we've found our key, let's unlock the whole story. We can actually reconstruct the entire sequence of events, almost like a detective mapping out a crime scene. We're going to go from the very first failure all the way to every single one of those 6 codes that popped up on the scanner.
And this just lays out the domino effect perfectly. Okay, so it all starts with step 1, the root failure. The fuel pump, way back in the gas tank, starts to die. It just can't deliver enough pressure, and what it does deliver is totally erratic. This immediately leads to the primary symptoms in step 2. The engine is starved for fuel, so it runs lean, which triggers those first 2 codes, P0171 and P0174. At the same time, our key code, P0190, gets set because the pressure sensor up at the engine sees the problem directly. And finally, in step 3, we get the secondary symptoms. The failing pump is working so hard that it gets crazy hot, and it literally fries its own internal temperature sensor. That gives us codes P0180 and P0182. And with so little fuel making it to the engine, cylinder number 8 is the first one to give up and misfire, logging that last code, P0308. See? It's amazing. One single failure creates all 6 codes.
What's so cool about this diagnosis is how 2 of the codes just perfectly bookend the entire problem. You've got P0182, the fuel temp sensor fault, which tells us there's a problem at the very source, all the way back in the fuel tank. And then you have P0190, which tells us the result of that problem at the final destination, the fuel rail, right at the engine. It gives us the complete picture from start to finish.
Now, a good theory is one thing, but we need proof, right? So we're going to put an end to all the guesswork. Let's walk through the 2 simple tests that will confirm this diagnosis with 100% certainty.
So we've got 2 different paths we can take to prove our case. On one hand, you have the old-school mechanical proof. This is where we get our hands dirty and physically measure the fuel pressure with a real gauge to see what it's actually doing. On the other hand, you have the electronic proof. Here we use a scan tool to peek into the car's computer and see the live data it's seeing in real time. When you put them both together, there's just no room left for doubt.
The mechanical test is super straightforward. All you have to do is connect a physical pressure gauge to the little valve on the fuel rail, start the car, and just watch the needle. What you're looking for, and what you will definitely find if our theory is right, is that the pressure is way too low, even just at idle. Then when you give it some gas and rev the engine, you'll see that pressure just take a nosedive. That's the cold, hard proof of a pump that just can't keep up.
Okay, now for the electronic proof. This is where it gets really interesting. If you look at the live data on a scan tool, you're going to see a trifecta of evidence that lines up perfectly with this table. First, check out the fuel rail pressure. You'll see a massive difference between the pressure the computer is asking for and the super low pressure it's actually getting. Second, look at the fuel temperature. It's going to be a totally impossible number like minus 40 degrees or something crazy, proving that sensor is toast. And finally, look at your long-term fuel trims. Those numbers will be through the roof,
often over plus 20 or even 30%. That's the computer desperately dumping in extra fuel to try and compensate. It's the perfect electronic smoking gun. So, with all that evidence in hand, the case is officially closed. The diagnosis is confirmed, no question about it. So let's move on to the final verdict and lay out a really clear action plan to get this car fixed the right way. All right, here's the game plan, exactly what needs to be done. First, it is absolutely mandatory that you replace the entire fuel pump module. That single part has both the failing pump and the burnt-out temperature sensor. Second, it's highly likely you're also going to need a new fuel rail pressure sensor, since the P0190 code points right at it. And hey, while you're in there, it is strongly recommended that you go ahead and replace the inline fuel filter and the spark plug for cylinder number 8 because it's been taking a real beating through all this.
And now for the big question everyone's thinking, what's this all going to cost? Well, looking at the parts, the fuel pump module itself is going to be anywhere from $250 to $600. The sensor is another $50 to $150. Then you factor in about 4 to 5 hours of labor, and you're looking at a total estimated cost somewhere in the ballpark of $1,000 to $2,000. It really depends on your specific vehicle and your local shop's rate.
Okay, and I really can't stress this next point enough. This is not a wait-and-see kind of problem. This is a critical failure, and you need to take action immediately. You absolutely should not continue to drive this vehicle. Seriously, park it. Driving it any further is just asking for much bigger and way more expensive trouble.
So why is it so urgent? Well, let's break down the risks you're taking. First, that dying pump could just completely give up at any moment, leaving you stranded on the side of the road. Second, that constant misfire in cylinder 8 is dumping raw unburned fuel into your exhaust, which will literally melt down and destroy your expensive catalytic converters. And third, running an engine this lean for any amount of time can cause detonation and lead to severe, and I mean severe, internal engine damage. These are really serious risks you just don't want to mess with.
So, there you have it. We started with what looked like a complete mess. 6 confusing codes, and by finding that one master clue, we unraveled the whole story behind them. We went from total confusion to absolute clarity. You now know exactly what the problem is, exactly why it's happening, and exactly what you need to do about it. You've successfully decoded the message your car was trying to send you. So the only question left is, are you ready to take action?